Psalm 20, KJV. To the chief musician, a psalm of David. 1. The Lord hear thee in the day of trouble. The name of the God of Jacob defend thee. 2. Send thee help from the sanctuary, and strengthen thee out of Zion. 3. Remember all thy offerings, and accept thy burnt sacrifice. Selah. 4. Grant thee according to thine own heart, and fulfill all. 5. We will rejoice in thy salvation, and in the name of our God we will set up our banners. The Lord fulfill all thy petitions. 6. Now know I that the Lord saveth his anointed. He will hear him from his holy heaven, with the saving strength of his right hand. 7. Some trust in chariots, and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. 8. They are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright. 9. Save, Lord, let the King hear us when we call. Psalm 20, detailed analysis. Psalm 20 is a prayer for victory, likely sung before going into battle. It reflects the voice of the people praying for their king, possibly David himself, asking God to bless and defend him. It's a powerful blend of intercession, confidence, and worship. Verses 1 to 5. A blessing and intercession for the king. Verse 1. The Lord hear thee in the day of trouble. The people pray that God hears their king in times of danger. The name of the God of Jacob refers to God's covenant faithfulness, the God who wrestled with Jacob and renamed him Israel, the God who stays near and defend thee literally means set you on high, like placing someone out of reach of their enemies. Verse 2. Send thee help from the sanctuary. They pray for help to come from the holy place, God's dwelling. Zion refers to Jerusalem, God's earthly center of worship. The help being requested is not from human armies, but divine strength. Verse 3. Remember all thy offerings. The king has worshipped, and now they ask that God remember his offerings. This shows the connection between worship and war. A righteous leader doesn't fight with swords alone, but seeks God first. Selah. Here is a moment to pause and reflect, as if to say, let's stop and truly ask God to remember his servant. Verse 4. Grant thee according to thine own heart. The people ask that God fulfill the king's desires and plans, not selfish dreams, but godly leadership, motivated by righteousness and justice. Verse 5. We will rejoice in thy salvation. Now they speak with confidence, not doubt. We will rejoice, not we might rejoice. Set up our banners refers to victory flags lifted in celebration. It's an act of public faith, even before the battle starts. Verses 6 to 8. A declaration of trust. Verse 6. Now know, either the Lord saveth his anointed. This is a faith declaration. Anointed, Hebrew, Messiah, refers to the king chosen and empowered by God. The people now speak confidently. We know God will save him. God saves not only with favor, but with power, the saving strength of his right hand. The right hand symbolizes power, authority, and action. Verse 7. Some trust in chariots, and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. This is one of the most quoted verses in the Bible. In ancient warfare, chariots and horses were symbols of strength. But God's people look beyond weapons. They trust in God's name, his character, his covenant. Verse 8. They are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright. Victory belongs to the humble who trust God. This is the final contrast, a self-reliant collapse, but those who lean on the Lord stand tall. This confidence isn't based on military strength, but on the faithfulness of God. Verse 9, closing prayer. Save, Lord, let the King hear us when we call. The psalm ends with a cry, Save us, O Lord. Some translations suggest this verse could also read, Lord, save the King. May he answer us when we call. Either way, it's a final plea for continued favor, covering both king and people. Summary of Psalm 20. Psalm 20 is a battlefield prayer, spoken by the people for their king, but equally relevant today for anyone walking into life's challenges. It teaches us true strength is found in the presence of God, not in earthly weapons. Before any battle, worship and prayer must come first. Trusting in God's name brings victory, while relying on human strength leads to defeat. God hears, saves, and raises up those who are humble and faithful. Psalm 20 is more than history. It's a model for how we should face every crisis, with worship, confidence, and community intercession. Psalm 21, KJV. To the chief musician, a psalm of David. 1. The king shall joy in thy strength, O Lord, and in thy salvation how greatly shall he rejoice. 2. Thou hast given him his heart's desire, and hast not withholden the request of his lips. Selah. 3. For thou preventest him with the blessings of goodness. Thou settest a crown of pure gold on his head. 4. He asked life of thee, and thou gavest it him, even length of days for ever and ever. 5. His glory is great in thy salvation. Honor and majesty hast thou laid upon him. 6. For thou hast made him most blessed forever. Thou hast made him exceeding glad with thy countenance. 7. For the king trusteth in the Lord, and through the mercy of the Most High he shall not be moved. 8. Thine hand shall find out all thine enemies. Thy right hand shall find out those that hate thee. 9. Thou shalt make them as a fiery oven in the time of thine anger. The Lord shall swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire shall devour them. 10. Their fruit shalt thou destroy from the earth, and their seed from among the children of men. 11. For they intended evil against thee. They imagined a mischievous device, which they are not able to perform. 12. Therefore shalt thou make them turn their back, when thou shalt make ready thine arrows upon thy strings, against the face of them. 13. Be thou exalted, Lord, in thine own strength. So will we sing and praise thy power. Psalm 21. Detailed analysis. Verses 1 to 7. Celebration of God's victory and blessing. Verse 1. The king shall joy in thy strength. David, the king, rejoices not in his own ability, but he praises God for the victory it was prayed for in Psalm 20. The heart of a godly leader beats with gratitude, not pride. Verse 2. Thou hast given him his heart's desire. God answered the king's request, not just partially, but fully. It's a reminder that when we walk in God's will, he delights in fulfilling holy desires. Selah invites us to pause and consider that the battle was won not by might, but because God listened. Verse 3. Thou preventest him with the blessings of goodness. Preventest here means to go before. God met the king with blessings, even before the king could earn them. The crown of pure gold is both literal and symbolic, a sign of honor and divine favor. Verse 4. He asked life, and thou gavest it. The king prayed for survival in battle, and God gave him not only victory, but also length of days. The phrase forever and ever could be understood in prophetic light, pointing toward the eternal reign of the Messiah, who comes from David's line. Verse 5. His glory is great in thy salvation. David's greatness comes not from status or power, but from the salvation God provides. Glory, honor, and majesty are gifts from God, not achievements by man. Verse 6. Thou hast made him most blessed forever. The king's blessing is abundant, enduring, and joyful. The key source of gladness? God's presence, thy countenance. Verse 7. The king trusteth in the Lord. Trust is the king's anchor. He stands strong not by strategy but by mercy, the steadfast love of the Most High. This is why he is not moved. Trust in God provides unshakable security. Verses 8 to 12. God's judgment on enemies. Verse 8. Thine hand shall find out all thine enemies. God's justice is not passive. He actively seeks out the wicked. There's no hiding from the right hand of God. Verse 9. Thou shalt make them as a fiery oven. This is a graphic metaphor for divine judgment. The enemies of God will be utterly consumed by his wrath. Not a moment of rage, but righteous punishment. Verse 10. Their fruit shalt thou destroy. This refers to legacy and future generations. Evil plans can infect future lines, but God cuts them off at the root. Verse 11. They intended evil, which they are not able to perform. God not only destroys evil, he frustrates its plans. This verse reveals that not all evil succeeds, because God intervenes. What was meant for harm doesn't come to pass. Verse 12. Thou shalt make them turn their back. This is a picture of defeat. The enemy turns and runs. God's arrows strike with precision. He is a warrior who wins. Verse 13. Closing praise. Be thou exalted, Lord, in thine own strength. The psalm ends with what all victories should end in: worship. David doesn't claim the credit. He gives it back to God. The people join in. We will sing and praise your power. Summary of Psalm 21. Psalm 21 is a song of victory, thanksgiving, and justice. It reflects the moment after the battle, when God has answered prayers, delivered his people, and scattered their enemies. The psalm teaches us, God answers the desires of the righteous. True strength comes from him, not human effort. God blesses and crowns those who trust in him. Evil plans are seen, stopped, and judged. The proper response to victory is humble worship. Psalm 21 reminds us that praise must follow deliverance, and that the greatest strength we can celebrate is not our own, but the strength of our saving God.